So we are live. Let's get started. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much. Okay, good morning and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the next Yoga Sutra sessions. I have to tell this because these Yoga Sutra sessions are giving more benefit to me. It's a great opportunity to learn this, contemplate upon this. That's amazing. So thank you very much for all of you to help me to grow and learn. With that, we can get started with the prayer. So let's start with the prayer.
Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarot tam pravaram muninam patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi.
Excellent. So we were in Samadhi Pada and we were reviewing the topic Ishwara Pranidhana. So let's take 5 minutes and try to get grounded once again. I try to do this every week just because we wanted to make sure that we are getting the flow of this teaching, because it's important to have that flow and systematically unfold from topic to topic. Why Ishwara Pranidhana is so important and where exactly it fits with the overall scheme of things. Any scriptural studies, if you don't do this, it won't be good, because you have to have that connection. And again, as I discussed earlier, what we are trying to do here, it's kind of a focused study. And what you need to do after this class is some reflection, because our brain works in two different modes. They say you do a focused mode, which helps you to understand the concepts, but to reinforce that concepts and to understand that and programmed into your system, you may have to reflect upon that in a leisure mode. This is called diffused learning. Then only the learning will complete. So it's my request to all of you that just contemplate upon the meaning of these verses in the next 1 week. And any questions, please shoot a messages. And this is very important. This way, this learning will be more beneficial to all of you. So we were talking about the whole yoga, and the first chapter of the Yoga Sutra is Samadhi Pada. The goal of the Samadhi Pada is to give you the different types of Samadhi and the nature of the Samadhi. Samadhi, as you say, as you perceive, it's not a mystical term which can be achieved by only sages. Each and every one of us can achieve this state of Samadhi with adequate practice and by the grace of God. So what is the Samadhi or the yoga mentioned in the first chapter of the Yoga Sutra? The second sutra gives us the brilliant definition. Yoga or Samadhi in that sense is Chitta Vritti Nirodha, the ability to gain control over all my mental activities. That is yoga and that is Samadhi. So when you have the ability to control all the mental activity, you will be able to place your mind in an optimal state or a well-placed state. And once you have this yoga, you will be able to place your mind in a well-placed state, and that state is known as Samadhi. Samadhi means every emotions will be appropriate. You will be in control of the activities. Yes, this beautiful state, which enables you to be happy, which enables you to be contented, and which enables you to put your best into the activity in front of you. This state is Samadhi. And this can be gained only with practice. You need to practice an ability to learn, just like you need to learn to ride a bicycle. Without that, that bicycle cannot be used. So, means for you to use the bicycle, You need to know how to drive it, how to control it. So for you to effectively use the mind, you need to know how to control that mind. And that process is yoga. And once you gain the control, if you place that mind into a well-placed state, that state is samadhi. When you are able to gain the control over the mind, the ultimate level of the samadhi is you will be able to suspend all the mental activities for a short duration of time, and that will enable you to have a face-to-face see with your true nature, which is Purusha. That is the third sutra. And if you cannot control, if your mental activities are scattered and it just comes and goes into the screen of your mind, what Patanjali tells is you will be identified with the mental activities rather than yourself and get carried away. When anger comes, you get angry and you flow with the anger. When sadness comes, you flow with sadness. So tada drishtuhu surupe avasthanam. Otherwise, what is going to happen? Vritti sarupyamitaratra. So if my goal is to control my mental activities, I need to know what are all the mental activities I'm going to control. And Patanjali tells in the 5th sutra, the broadly mental activities can be classified into two, klishta and aklishta. Some of these activities will give some struggle in the path of yoga. Some activities will help me to gain control over the mind. And then he tells there are 5 types of vrittis: pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra, smrutaya. We know that. Some of the mental activities will give you correct knowledge. Some of them will be incorrect knowledge. Some of them will be completely imagination, which doesn't have any existence at all. Then we saw a few activities which you can recollect from the past experience. I went to Himalayas 5 years back, but still I can recollect that memory. So that's another mental activity. And sleep, that is also a special kind of mental activity where a tamas will be covering you so that nothing will be visible to you, you will sleep. So how do you gain control over these 5 types of mental activities? We heard 2 methods. One is called Abhyasa, consistent practice for a sufficient period of time. That is known as Abhyasa. What exactly is the practice? These 8 limbs of yoga. So that is Abhyasa. And then Vairagya, the ability to detach yourself, ability to put some discipline in my life. That is called Vairagya. And there are 4 stages of Samadhi. We saw that. The Samadhi won't achieve everything at the first level. So the meditative practice you do, the first type of Samadhi is called Savitarka Samadhi, where you meditate upon something physical. It could be a sound, it could be a form of God, it could be your breathing, or it could be a mantra, chanting of a mantra. So that is Savitarka Samadhi. Then we called Savichara Samadhi, something subtle. Sananda Samadhi. Sananda Samadhi means you focus on your happiness or that contentment you experience in your mind without a form. You're not meditating upon a form, but you're only focusing on that happy experience. So you do the Savitarka Savichara Samadhi and the mind will get into a particular state. At that time, you drop the Savitarka Samadhi, Savichara Samadhi and get into that Sananda Samadhi. And then when you evolve, you can make a meditation on the Asmita Samadhi. You are meditating upon the sense of I-ness. These are all the advanced meditative techniques Patanjali gave us. These are the different stages through which one's meditation practices goes through. And then he said, right, once you complete this Samprajnana Samadhi, meaning you can get the state of Samadhi, you can get an absorption of your mind, but you need an object. It could be Savitarka, it could be Savichara, it could be Sananda, it could be Sasmita. But you need some object. This is, once you gain that Samprajnana Samadhi, you will get into that final stage of the Samadhi, which is called Asamprajnana Samadhi, where you don't need any external tool or support. You will have the ability to control the mind. That Samadhi is called Asamprajnana Samadhi. Again, that is very highest level of Samadhi. We talked about that. And then he said, right, How you means there are obstacles in your Abhyasa and Vairagya. It's not easy to practice. So, along with the Abhyasa and Vairagya, is there any catalyst? Is there any catalyst which can accelerate my practice? He said, yes. There is an easy solution. Surrender to Ishwara. That's where the topic of Ishwara Pranidhana came in. Ishwara can act as a catalyst in my practice. Knowing Ishwara, contemplating upon Ishwara, relating to Ishwara, that is very essential in the practice of yoga. And I explained here, this is one difference between the Sankhya and yoga philosophies or the darshanas. In Sankhya Darshana, Ishwara is never introduced. But unlike Sankhya, yoga heavily dependent upon Ishwara. So if you remember, we spent some quite a lot of time trying to understand this Ishwara. Who is this Ishwara? So we understood Ishwara as the intelligent order of the universe. We talked about a lot, right? Every class we took one example. One class we took the example of the physics. Another class we took the example of biology. Another class we took the example of chemistry. But whatever is the field of inquiry, when you look into the world, whether it is your body, whether it is your mind, whether it is the external nature, or whether it is the planetary system, you see a perfect order in the universe. And sometimes it is so hard to comprehend even that order. We talked about this, right? The human body. Like if you take one aspect of your body, like say bones, or the red blood cells, or the functioning of your brain, or functioning of your heart, or functioning of your liver, everything is a miracle. How well, how intelligently it is put together. You need to understand, read the medical book, or you need to understand the psychology book. It cannot be otherwise. It's perfectly engineered. And this perfect engineering cannot happen without some intelligence. And that intelligence, which put together this whole universe together, and that intelligence, which sustains this whole universe together, and that intelligence, which governs this working of the functioning of this entire universe together, and that creative intelligence, that order of the universe, that is what we call as Ishwara. And we said, Ishwara needs to be understood, not just blindly believed in, right? So typically what happens, if you look at your brain, anything you inquire, you always ask a lot of questions. Even if you go to a vegetable market, you will ask, is this organic? Is this how many calories are there? I do a lot of inquiry. But typically for people, their understanding about Ishwara, it stays as immature as you understood as a child. What happens? Some selective anesthesia happens in that region of the brain, always. Whatever your concept of God, when you are a child, it stays exactly as it is. Every other knowledge area, you can see that it changes. Physics, it changes. Chemistry, it changes. Everything, it changes. But you prefer, somehow we don't apply enough thought or enough analysis on who is God. How can I relate with him? What way I can relate with him? That is never happened. So if you try to understand God, just like the way I explained as the intelligent order of the universe, it's amazing. You may prefer to call it as God, or you may prefer to call it as natural law. The physics means, I always say, right? You can look at this whole system through the eyes of the science or through the eyes of the religion. When you look at through the religion's eye, you call it as God or Father in heaven or Allah or whatever is the name. But when you look at through the lens of the science, you say that it is the intelligent order of the universe or universal law. Whatever you prefer to call, you cannot but accept that intelligence in the universe. And that is what is Ishwara. And understanding and surrendering to that Ishwara. Surrendering is a religious language. But if you go back to the science and try to understand, what does that mean? Suppose I want to live within a framework which is constrained by certain law or enforced by certain law. I need to understand that law for effective life and efficient life and intelligent life. Don't you think that suppose I'm driving, don't you think that I need to know the rules of the traffic? Why should I learn to know the rules of the traffic? For effectively navigating through the road system, I need to know the traffic better. I need to know the traffic rules. Otherwise, I'm rubbing my shoulders against the traffic law. When I rub my shoulders against the traffic law, what happens? I get bleeding. Simple example. If I don't stop in a red light, what is going to happen? Accident. Why? So translate that into the role of dharma. I didn't follow the traffic dharma. Now if I complain to God, oh God, why did you punish me? God will say, I didn't punish you. You rubbed your shoulder against a rough surface. What is the natural result? Bleeding. Exactly. You didn't follow this traffic rule. That is what you got suffering. This is the law of karma. So this law of karma, law of dharma, understanding of the Ishwara is very important. When you understand and connect with that role, when you conform to that rule of dharma or the order of the universe, it will enable me a better life. It will enable me an environment for growth. It will help me to grow as a mature person. I'm sorry to repeat this multiple times, but I really want us to understand this idea. This is the idea of Vedic vision of God. It is not an entity sitting above the cloud. Just because I want, I need to punish you. Not at all. It is that intelligent order of the universe. So now, Patanjali means last week we said, Patanjali said what? Ishwara pranithana va. Ishwara pranithana va, he said. Ishwara means surrender to Ishwara. And he said, Ishwara is a special Purusha, right? A special Purusha. Unlike Jiva, Ishwara, the intelligent order of the universe, is never bound. Never bound. He is always free. And the intelligent order of the universe is ever free from the typical obstacles, which is klesha, karma, means vipaka, and ashaya. So we talked about that 4 obstacles which are there for any human being. Ishwara is not subject to that. And Ishwara is all-knowing because sarvajna bijam, niratishayam sarvajna bidam. He is all-knowing. We talked about the nature of the Bhagavan and all-knowing intelligent order of the universe. We know only a fraction of what is going in the universe. So we cannot call ourselves as sarvajna. We have some knowledge. The doctor has some knowledge about the heart, but not all. This is the Ishwaras. So Ishwara means Patanjali tried to make us understood. And also on verse 126, he said Ishwara is the primordial teacher because he is not bound by space and time. And because of that, he is the first teacher. Means in traditionally, we call Dakshinamurti as the first teacher. And we talked about this verse also. Sadashiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Padyantam, Vande Guru Parampara. So this much we saw. Let me pause here. Any obvious questions? Otherwise, we can keep those questions at the end. But are you appreciating this idea of Ishwara, which is conventionally different from what we used to hear.
Rajesh ji,
Yes.
is this God as a universal law? Is that in the scripture itself, or is that how we interpret from Patanjali Yoga Sutra?
No, it is there in the scriptures.
Which one can?
All the Upanishads.
Okay.
Mandukya Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad. It is there. That is how the Ishwara is present. So this is not an interpretation of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It is Bhagavad Gita. If you want, you can refer Bhagavad Gita chapter 7 and chapter 9.
Okay, thank you.
Well, this is the idea of the Vedic vision of the God.
Rajaji,
yeah.
Obvious question, but it will turn into a long discussion, so we should probably have it later. I keep getting confused between this definition of Ishwara, which I understand very intuitively. I mean, it just makes obvious sense. Intelligent order of universe and something that we can be subservient to, something that can help in addition to Abhyasa and Vairagya in our spiritual journey. That all makes perfect sense. Where I get confused is when I think about Atma and consciousness and we being Atma, and yet, and how are we different from this Ishwara? I'd love to get into more details on that after.
Right. So that's a very obvious question, and that's something that we are exploring, right? So the difference is, let me give you a 1-minute answer. We can talk about this at the end, and exactly this is the topic we are going to unfold in the upcoming classes. So the difference is, Ishwara is a Purusha. I am a Purusha. There are two differences. One is, Ishwara knows that he is Atma, which is not subjected to any change, which is not subjected to any destruction, nothing. But what about me? What is my identity right now? You identify yourself as Arnab. I identify myself as Rajesh. When I keep my identity with the body and the mind, what is the difference? This body was born at a certain point of time. This body is changing constantly, and this body will die away at a certain point of time. And it is subjected to the sixfold modification: existence, birth, growth, metamorphosis, right? Or that, then decay, finally death. Asti, jayate, varthate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, pranashate. And I keep my identity with my experiences. I am the body mind. That is the difference. But that's why Patanjali said Ishwara is a Purusha Vishesha. So this Purusha Vishesha means he is ever free. So imagine that. One more point, and then we will go on and we will continue this discussion. And that is where, like, the purpose of the Yoga Sutra or Bhagavad Gita, everything is, how can I put a permanent end to all my suffering? Imagine that I'm in a dream. I have a lot of struggles in that dream life. I got corona. I got a finance problem. I got a lot of problem. Yes, I need to face that within that dream space and dream time. But you need to understand that my existence is not just limited to that dream alone. I have a larger existence. So right now, for me, I'm constrained by this world, this space, this time. So every problem in this world, I think that is the ultimate I will come to. And even if I don't have a problem, I know that eventually I need to die, which cannot be acceptable, because I think that my existence ceased to exist. But when you realize that this body and the mind, yes, it is important. It is important for me to transact in this time and space, but I do have a larger existence. That gives me an enormous courage. So imagine that your dream becomes a lucid dream. Still, you have to face the challenges in that dream, but with a larger confidence. This is the goal. That is the difference between Ishwara and the individual. And when you have that identity revealed, that I am Atma, then what happens? I'm raising myself to that level of my identity with Ishwara. That is where this Mahavakyas comes from the Upanishad. Tattvamasi, I am Atma Brahma. But that's all for the advanced stages. But right now, what can I do? Forget about realizing the Ishvara state. Gaining control over the mind is simply not just going to help me to gain means Ishvara's presence. It will help me to do my job better. It will help me to keep my relationship flourishing.
Yes.
It will keep my mind happy and contented. That's the immediate benefit. So we'll start enjoying those benefits first, and eventually we will gradually grow. That's what the approach of Yoga Sutra, and that is what the approach of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, great. So let's continue. So let's go to the verse 27. Where is the recording? Okay, I thought I put that recording here. Sorry, I copied the recording, somehow it didn't save. So let's go. So he tells Tasya Vachaka Pranavaha. So that's the next verse. See, the full presentation is here. See. No. Sorry, my presentation. Okay, so he tells Tasya Vachaka Pranavaha. So Tasya Vachaka Pranavaha means what? Tasya means Ishwarasya. The next word is called Vachaka. Vachaka means there is two things. One is called Vakya, the other one is called Vachaka. Do you know what is the difference? You say sugar. That is Vachaka, a name that indicates an object. And then there is an actual sugar, right? So the sugar crystal is there, then the name sugar is there. And the name sugar actually points to the actual sugar crystal. So in Sanskrit, one is called Vachaka and the other one is called Vachya. Vachaka and Vachya. So this Vachaka is the name that indicates something. So Patanjali tells, what is this name or the pointer or the sound symbol that refers to this Ishwara we have been talking earlier? It tells it is Pranavaha. Pranavaha, the name of the Ishwara, or the best symbol, or the zonal symbol. Zonal symbol, or the sound symbol, to represent Ishwara is known as Pranava. Somebody is not muted. I don't know who it is. Okay, if you can go, means if you're not speaking, you can go on mute. That will be very helpful. Okay, so this is what is Pranava. So we just need to do a little bit more analysis. Let's make it a little bit of interactive and try to understand this meaning of Ishwara. So what he is saying is, so far we talked about the Ishwara a lot. We said Ishwara is the intelligent order of the universe. Ishwara is a special Purusha who does not go through any of these constraints. And Ishwara is the Adi Guru. Ishwara's knowledge is Sarvajnaha. And pranidhana, like aligning with the rules of the Ishwara, is going to accelerate my yoga path. That much said. And then in this verse, he tells Tasya Vajaka Pranavaha. The name I used to indicate this Ishwara is called Pranavaha. That's what it is. So, Pranava. Anybody know what is Pranava?
Omkara.
Beginning.
It is Omkara, right? As said. And Rathika, what did you say?
Beginning.
Yeah, Pranava
Starting.
means, yeah, no, it indicates Omkara, or even it's not beginning, but there is a meaning. So we need to understand that. We all know that the importance of Om in our culture. Anything you say Om, every mantra starts with Om. It is called Omkara. Arnabji, you said Omkara. Please understand that. I want to take a little bit of time and understand what is this Om. When you say Omkara, this Kara is a suffix added. Please don't think that the Kara is part of Om. The mantra, the syllable is Om. The Kara, it means that it is the form. That's all. So you say Akara, right? To represent A. Ukara, to represent U. That's all. Interestingly, even the word Ahankara uses the same thing. So Akara means it is the form that represents A. Ukara represents the form that represents U. And Omkara is the form that represents Om. If you extend the logic, what is Ahankara? It is the expression of your individuality. That's what it's Ahankara. That gives that form which gives you the individuality is Ahankara. Now, you want to give a name to Ishwara. How do you give that name? How can you select one name which can cover that largest possible scope of Ishwara? This is a difficult task. And that's where the sages came and gave us a wonderful loaded symbol which can capture, which can encapsulate the entire scope of the definition of Ishwara. And that name is known as Om. And that Om, the name of that word Om, is known as Pranavaha. So we need to understand these two words. So we may have to spend some time and try to understand this, and then we can discuss this also. Some interesting facts also I'll tell. Pranavaha, let's start with that. It came from two words. One is called Praharshena Nuyate. Praharshena means firmly, specially. Nuyate means Praharshena Nuyate. Let me just give you. Praharshena Nuyate iti Pranavaha. Praharshena means perfectly, specially. Nuyate means praised or worshipped. This is known as Pranavaha. One meaning. Multiple meanings are there. So, Praharshena Nuyate iti Pranavaha. He who is specially worshipped, who is perfectly worshipped. That is what is Pranavaha. And one more meaning is, if you substitute the word Va of Pranava with Dha, you can say that Pranidhana, surrender to Ishwara. So, Om is the symbol which can be used to perfectly praise or worship Ishwara. And that is why the word Om got a different name called Pranava. Right? This symbol of Om, which is the most important, Praharshate Nuyate. Right? This is very important. Praharshate Nuyate. So, Praharshena Nuyate. This symbol, which is the loaded symbol, which can be used to worship Ishwara perfectly. This symbol is the most important, most powerful mantra which can be used to worship Ishwara. That is why it is Pranavaha. One more meaning, which I didn't even put here. It tells Praharshena Nava. What is Nava? The word Nava means
New.
new. Exactly. Right? What is that? Always fresh. Ever fresh. There is no age for God. He is ever fresh. In Dakshinamurti Stotram, you can see Lord Dakshinamurti, how he is represented. Ever young. That's another meaning. That's Ishwara. But really, I like the meaning given by Shankaracharya in the commentary of Yoga Sutra for Pranava, which is Praharshena Nuyate. Why you selected Om as a means for meditation? Because this is the most ideal means to worship Ishwara. That is why it is called Pranava. So a couple of other points here, we can have some discussion. The relationship with the word Om, and the meaning has an extensive history in our literature. Right. So the word Om, typically what happens, I said the Vachaka and the Vachya are different. But somehow what is happening is the word Om perfectly reflects what exactly it points to. In other words, there is no better word other than Om to represent Ishwara. We will explain that in a moment, but understand that. So what happens is the word and the meaning of the word is completely inseparable in the case of Om. The moment you say Om, Ishwara will come to your mind. You can call it as a heuristic, but if you chant the Om meditation, if you contemplate upon the meaning of the Om, or if you just use the Om as a means of meditation, this has a magical power which is completely proven multiple times. That is why the Vachaka and the Vachya are perfectly blended with this symbol Om. Whether it is the vibration we are talking, the sound Om produces, or whether you contemplate upon this, everything is perfectly blended. The Taittiriya Upanishad tells, Brahman is Om, meaning, and the universe is also Om. Om represents everything. And the Shvetashvara Upanishad tells, meditating upon Om, everything means the Ishwara can be realized. Right? This is what it is. So, in Yoga Sutra commentary, Vyasa tells, the process of Ishwara investing his potential in the sound of Om is compared to like an iron ball near a fire. What happens? The iron ball gets the functionality of the fire. So practically, if you touch the iron ball, it gets heat. You get heat. It looks red. Everything is there. It is not the heat. The symbol is never the God, but the symbol shows every intrinsic property of the fire. Like that, Om is not God, but it is a lauded symbol it demonstrates all the aspect of the Ishwara. You can understand Ishwara through the meditation of Om. And this repetition of the Om is performed by the yogis in India many centuries. And this is one of the most common form of Hindu meditation. When I say Hindu meditation, Vedic meditation. That's it. So this Om has a very big meaning. And there is one Upanishad. I don't know whether you know that. That entire scope of the Upanishad is dedicated for the meaning of the Om, which is Mandukya Upanishad.
Mandukya.
So now, let's have a little bit more discussion. So, tasya vajaha pranavaha. We understood that. He said, if Ishwara can be given a name, that name is pranavaha, which is Om. And why Om is selected? That is what is being explained by the word pranavaha, because it is the most ideal way to praise or worship Ishwara. Praharshena noyate. So if you don't know that, please keep that explanation in mind. Why Om is important is what is explained by the word pranavaha, praharshena noyate. Now let's go back to the actual Om. How this word Om is created? It's not a vowel, it's a derived word. It's a compound word in Sanskrit. Anybody knows how this word is created? It is the combination of 3 syllables. Akara, Ukara, and
Makara.
Yeah, Makara. Akara, Ukara, and Makara. Why this word?
Creation, sustenance, and destruction.
Different. See, if you really sit and think about contemplation upon these meanings, it's impossible. It's multiple things, right? But we need to understand why these multiple meanings came to this syllable Om. What exactly it represents? Think through that. What exactly Om represents? See, you are using a symbol to represent something. What is that entity, or what is that object, or what is that thing represented by Om? Ishwara. Now, what is the scope of the Ishwara? Infinite. So you want to pick up a name which perfectly indicates that infinite scope of Ishwara, which is not an easy task. So, how they came up with this word Om, that's very important in our culture. So it's a sound symbol. Shabda, right? It's a shabda, sound that generates. Now, Mandukya Upanishad you have to read to get the whole picture. It's a lot. A simple interpretation means whatever I'm saying, it is not going to be complete, because still there is a lot of you can go on and on for this for 5 or 10 classes. That much meaning is there. So one meaning is for Om is called, it is Avati Rakshati. Iti Om. Avati Rakshati. Avati means that which protects, that which sustains us is what is Om. Isn't it a good definition? What exactly sustains us? The whole universe. It's not that a mystical Ishwara sitting there and just wandering like a stick and sustaining the world. It is the whole intelligence order. It is the governing principle of the whole universal law. From that way, you can say that the whole world is sustained by Ishwara. So Avati Rakshati. This is the meaning. That which sustains, that which protects is Ishwara. Imagine if Ishwara is Ishwara's law is not there. How do I being protected? Let's say that if the air stops one day, right? Done. If the gravity changes its order for a day, if my hearts decide to stop in between for 5 minutes, done. So that which protects me, that which sustains me is Ishwara. And that is why Om. Avati Rakshati. So this one way of taking the name Om. Second thing is, suppose you want to use a name which represents the different sounds can be created by a human being. So, what are all the different sounds a human being can create? It's infinite. Permutation and combination. So, when you have from that infinite possible sound production capacity, what is that sample sound syllables which can be used to represent the entire scope of possibilities? Because every name is Ishwara, every name is sustained by Ishwara, every name is protected by Ishwara. So what is that scope of that entire sound? So the rishis, what they did was, if you open your mouth and make a sound, what is that sound? See, every sound, either you have to completely open your mouth and make a sound, or there are certain sounds you have to close your mouth and make the sound, and there are some sound you can make in between. These are the three possibilities of sound production. So you can open your mouth, make some sound, close your mouth, make some sound, and in between position, some sounds will be produced. So you take one sample from each of these things and create a syllable which will stand as a representation of the entire sounds and names in the universe. So now if you open your mouth and make a sound, what is the sound?
Ah.
Ah. Now if you close your mouth and make a sound, what is that sound?
Ma.
Make a sound.
Ma.
And in between, oo, if you make a sound, oo. So A plus O plus Om. Again, what is the purpose? You are trying to find a syllable which can represent this infinite scope of Ishwara, so that I can relate with this Ishwara. So A plus O plus it is Pranavaha, because so perfectly designed sound to worship Ishwara, because it is Avati Rakshati. It is, second thing is, it is a sampling or a representation of the entire sound and names in the world. Now, the third point. When you think about this universe, right? One is the waking world, right? Whatever you see in the working state of experience, that is one universe you experience. When your sense organs are active, whatever you capture from the external world, that is a universe you are experiencing. And that is being captured by the word A. It is known as technically Vishwa. Then the second world you experience is what? Your dream state. This is represented by Taijasa, which is represented by O. And then the third world you experience is deep state, the sleep. So deep sleep is also an experience, which is the lack of external world or the dream world. That is represented by Ma. So Jagrat, Sopna, Sushupti is captured by each of these letters, and the combination of all those experiences is Ishwara. And that is why, again, Pranavaha. Om. Right? Jagrat, Sopna, Sushupti. Another way of looking at it is what? The entire gunas in the world. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. One syllable represents each one of them. The combination of these Sattva, Rajas, Tamas is the entire universe. Again, Om. So beautiful. And then, one more way of looking at it is your physical body, subtle body, causal body. Combination of that is your entire physical system. That's also. So this symbol became the most ideal symbol to represent the infinite Ishwara. And when this symbol became the most important symbol to worship Ishwara, that is why Pranava is selected. And look at it, this is not sectarian. This is neither Vishnu, nor Shiva, nor Devi. Everybody can accept it. And every tradition of our culture, whether it is Shakteya, Vaishnava, or even the Smartas, which is the absolute Advaita, from the Advaita Vedanta to Bhakti tradition, everybody recognizes this value. There's a beautiful description of a story in Bhagavata, Dhruva's story. Narada gives advice to Dhruva. I was reading the other day, like, if you read the book I referred, like the Bhakti Yoga by Edwin Brandt, this story is brilliantly defined. You can see the entire yoga is described by Narada. Starts with pranayama, getting into meditation. So there also he highlights this Om meditation. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells what? Out of all mantra, I am Om. Om ityekaksharam Brahma. Remember the 8th chapter? Krishna tells, Om is a single letter that represents the absolute reality. So this Om is so important. When Patanjali tells, this Om, the meditation of Om, right? So we do, means in the next upcoming verses, we are going to see what is the benefit of this Om meditation. Om can be used as a japa. Om can be used as a meditation. Contemplation of Om can be used as a meditation. And Om is so important in the yogic tradition. And that's what is highlighted by this sutra. You know that we took a lot of time to cover this sutra. I was thinking of covering 2 other sutras, but that's fine. So we can pause here and try to understand, have some discussions if anybody has any major discussion on this topic. So let me do the closing prayer and then we can go to the Q&A mode.
Virama pratyayabhyasa purva. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.